This is VOA Africa.
Good evening, I'm Esther Gidui. It's Thursday, November 21st. This is Africa 54. Explosive testimony from the U.S. ambassador to the European Union in the impeachment inquiry hearings investigating President Donald Trump. The International Committee to Protect Journalists honors a Tanzanian with this year's International Press Freedom Award. And amid unrest, Sudan's stock market maps out an expansion plan. The seventh impeachment inquiry session investigating U.S. President Donald Trump is underway on Capitol Hill Thursday. On Wednesday, during an explosive testimony, U.S. diplomat Gordon Sondland told the panel that despite Trump's denial, U.S. aid to Ukraine was conditioned on investigations benefiting Trump's personal political interests. We get more from VOA congressional correspondent Catherine Gibson.
The U.S. ambassador to the EU testifying in public for the first time about the link between American military aid to Ukraine and investigations that would benefit President Trump politically.
I know that members of this committee frequently frame these complicated issues in the form of a simple question: was there a quid pro quo? As I testified previously, with regard to the requested White House call and the White House meeting, the answer is yes.
Sondland explaining he, Ambassador Kurt Volker, and Energy Secretary Rick Perry acted under the direction of Trump's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani.
We all understood that if we refused to work with Mr. Giuliani, we would lose a very important opportunity to cement relations between the United States and Ukraine. So we followed the president's orders.
On the 26th,
House Democrats said Sondland's testimony clearly established Trump abused the power of his office.
We also have heard for the first time that knowledge of this scheme was pervasive. The Secretary of State was aware of it, the acting Chief of Staff Mulvaney was aware of it, and of course at the very top, Donald Trump, through his personal lawyer and others, was implementing it.
Well,
Sondland leveled serious allegations against top administration officials, including Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who defended his role.
I know precisely what American policy was with respect to Ukraine. I was working on it, and I'm incredibly proud of what we've accomplished. We delivered remarkable outcomes for the Ukrainian people.
Trump defended himself by quoting his own phone conversation earlier this year with Sondland.
I want nothing. I want nothing. I want no quid pro quo. Tell Zelensky, President Zelensky, to do the right thing. This is the final word from the President of the United States. I want nothing.
Trump released close to $400 million in U.S. military aid to Ukraine on September 11th. After concerns about the holdup became public. Republicans argue Trump cannot be impeached if the aid was released, and Ukraine never announced the investigations.
They get the call, they get the meeting, they get the money.
A Republican argument that appears to be holding his base of supporters, says one analyst.
His base is sticking with him. We have seen some Republicans outspoken who have come out and been critical of him or who have suggested that maybe this was inappropriate. But those critiques haven't been particularly harsh or sustained. They haven't sort of created an infectious kind of wave of not backing the president.
Support in the Republican majority U.S. Senate will be key to keeping Trump in office if he faces a trial there, following a vote on articles of impeachment in the Democratic-controlled U.S. House of Representatives. Catherine Gibson, VOA News, Capitol Hill.
A Tanzanian court has postponed the hearings of a prominent Tanzanian journalist, Erick Kabendera, for the 8th time. Kabendera was arrested in July and was charged in August with leading organized crime, failing to pay taxes, and money laundering. His lawyers and rights groups say the charges are politically motivated. Prosecutors have told the court at each hearing that investigations were not complete. Meanwhile, the Committee to Protect Journalists, a global press freedom group, in July named Maxence Melo, a Tanzanian journalist and founder of Jamii Forum's winner of this year's International Press Freedom Award. VOA Salem Solomon spoke with Mr. Melo here at VOA. He described how cyber laws are being used to stifle information and punish journalists.
I wanted to talk to you about a specific example of the 2015 Cyber Crimes Act.
Yes.
Where you've mentioned legal acts that prevent you from basically doing your job.
Exactly.
But how is it being used to suppress free press or free speech?
Yes, under Section 16 of the Cyber Crimes Act, anyone who publishes false information is subject to commit a crime. And you may think that you have posted something which you feel like it's true, or even you can just put it as comedy. In the end, you end up being arrested for posting false information. And the person who can claim it wasn't false information is a minister of that ministry. And the minister is just a politician. It may be a story about him or about a colleague of that minister. And you are in the police's mercy to allow you, like you are safe or not, until they tell you it's not false information. So the Section 16 of the Cyber Crimes Act is being, I may say, kind of misused to challenge those critical voices. But also we have Section 32 of the Cyber Crimes Act. The first section may give you freedom. The second section may take your freedom, but the third one allows people like us who are processing information not to reveal the identities of our whistleblowers until the court tells the authorities what to do. But as for me, I was arrested without court order and the procedures were not followed. But again, for the past 3 years, I've been in court. So we also have Section 22 of the Cyber Crimes Act, which is being used by the police to demand for user data. But sometimes, as for a journalist, if they do not read these laws, you can't find that they still give you freedom under Section 39, that you are not liable to reveal your sources until some procedures are followed.
But you have to go through a court system.
Yes, you have to go through the court process.
Do you believe that you'll be able to practice journalism in Tanzania?
Yes, we still do that, even though there are lots of restrictions, there are lots of laws. You need to understand how to navigate through these kinds of tough times. I think I've read almost all laws, around 13 of them, which are within the industry. And you find some flaws or some sections that do safeguard you. But the problem is, until you're safe, it's when the court decides like you're free and the allegations against you were not genuine. But again, it's a few people who can accept appearing before the court over 100 times, appearing with the court, to the court every week, and being intimidated, lots of calls from authorities, the police and the other authorities, and a few journalists who can exercise this kind of intimidation. And I sometimes understand why some people tend not to practice journalism, even though they are journalists. I spoke about the 13 different laws, but yes, also the money laundering can be used against any journalist. We have our colleague, Erick Kabendera, who is facing charges in court. I don't want to get into details because it's still a court which is pending in court, a case which is pending in court. And also that's why I didn't talk much about my cases, the 2 cases which are pending in court. But what I want to say that any law can be used against critical voices, against journalists, especially those who are doing investigative journalism. So it comes at a huge price.
That was Tanzanian journalist Maxence Melo speaking to VOA Salem Solomon. Melo will receive his CPJ award Thursday night in New York City. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and opposition Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn clashed over Brexit in their first televised debate this week ahead of the December 12th election. Johnson is promising to end what he called, quote, this national misery of Brexit, while Corbyn is promising yet another referendum. As Henry Ridgwell reports, many voters appear unimpressed by either of the party leaders.
Boris Johnson versus Jeremy Corbyn.
Britain's politicians and its people are bitterly divided over Brexit, and it's dominating the campaign. Boris Johnson said a Conservative government would leave the European Union in January, and a trade deal with the EU would be easy.
Because we're already in a state of perfect alignment, both for tariffs and for quotas. And
Johnson said a win for his Labour opponents would see more Brexit confusion.
We don't know on which side Mr. Corbyn would campaign. Is he going to campaign for leave or remain?
Jeremy Corbyn insisted his policy is clear: to negotiate a better Brexit deal.
And it's very clear, 3 months to negotiate, 6 months for a referendum, and that will bring that process to an end. What we know of the government's proposals, what we know of what Mr. Johnson has done, is a series of secret meetings with the United States in which they were proposing to open up our NHS markets, as they call them, to American companies.
Johnson insists Britain's National Health Service won't be on the table in any US trade deal. Polls show much of the watching public was unimpressed.
I didn't think anyone won. I didn't think it was a very meaningful or kind of revealing debate at all.
It was pretty underwhelming all round, really.
There was anger among smaller opposition parties over their exclusion from the debate.
There was a huge gap in that debate. Both of them want Brexit, and yet the voice of Remain wasn't there.
Scotland's leader renewed her party's pitch for independence.
And it really underlines the importance for Scotland of getting our future out of the hands of Boris Johnson, Jeremy Corbyn, a broken Westminster system, and taking our future into our own hands.
Both leaders pledged big increases in spending on health, education and tackling climate change. But in reality, analysts say Brexit will still likely dominate the next Parliament.
If we leave the EU on the 31st of January, then we will have several more years of uncertainty while we negotiate the future trade deal with the EU.
The gloves are off in an election campaign aimed at ending Britain's political chaos. But whichever of these men is the next Prime Minister, their time in office will still be defined by Brexit. Henry Ridgwell for VOA News, London.
Britain's Prince Andrew says he is stepping away from his public duties because of the controversy over his involvement with the late financier Jeffrey Epstein, who committed suicide in prison earlier this year. A statement from Buckingham Palace issued Wednesday says the scandal has become a major disruption to the royal family's work and to the charities associated with Prince Andrew. The 59-year-old prince, also known as the Duke of York, denied allegations he had sex with a 17-year-old girl arranged by Epstein. Epstein, a convicted sex offender, was awaiting trial on new charges of sex, of child abuse and trafficking when he hanged himself in his prison cell. A 15-year-old girl from Cameroon is one of two winners of the 2019 International Children's Peace Prize. Divina Malum was rewarded for her efforts in promoting children's rights and warning them against joining extremist groups such as Boko Haram. Hundreds of children from schools in Yaoundé who were glued to their TV screens applauded Wednesday as Malum was given the honor in The Hague on the occasion of Universal Children's Day. The other winner of the prize was 16-year-old Greta Thunberg, the climate activist from Sweden. We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54. Join the discussion on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. Also check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Still to come, mapping out the future of Sudan's fledgling financial market. We'll be back.
I am Sheikh Sali, host and senior editor of VOA's international call-in talk show, Straight Talk Africa.
Today we'll examine the tobacco industry.
We pretty much touch on anything that you can think of. Politics, health issues, human rights issues, you name it, we talk about it. The issues that we discuss are pertinent to most people on the African continent. A very, very rare and unique opportunity to interact with their leaders.
The lyrics could be French,
English,
Portuguese,
Bantu,
Arabic.
It is the beat.
The African beat that counts.
The beat does all the translations.
It cuts across all languages and gives us the understanding that this is the African beat.
It is so distinct
and adhesive.
It binds us together.
African beat on the Voice of America. For more information, visit our website at www.voanews.com/AfricanBeat.
I'm Clara Frank, and here's what's trending. West Africa's largest wind farm is expected to start producing energy for Senegal's national power grid by the end of December, using 16 already functioning wind turbines out of 48, generating 50 megawatts in the first phase. Renewable power company Lekela expects the wind farm to reach 159 megawatts by 2020. President Macky Sall is keen to make Senegal a leader in renewables in Africa, with a 30% target for clean energy in the coming years, of which this project will provide half. A smaller solar project underway aims to produce 30 megawatts. Lekela also has renewable projects in Egypt, Ghana, and South Africa. Next up, the latest eco-friendly alternative to plastic comes from an unexpected source: trees. Woodley, the Finnish inventors of the material, says it's made from cellulose. The process transforms wood into pearl-like granules that can then be made into a clear plastic film for use in packaging. It's designed to be recyclable, though it's not biodegradable. The energy recovered from the products yields 70% less fossil-based carbon dioxide than burning traditional plastics. The company aims to have its plastic film products in stores by the end of 2019. And finally, just in time for the holiday gift-giving season, the internationally acclaimed organizing and decluttering guru Marie Kondo has opened an online store. KonMari.com offers items ranging from a tuning fork and clear quartz crystal for $75 to a shiatsu stick for $12. Kondo is known to global audiences for her best-selling books, including The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, The Japanese Art of Decluttering and Organizing, which has sold more than 7 million copies worldwide. Her disciples see her words as a philosophy about seeking a happier life by putting their homes in order. And that's what's trending today.
Back to U.S. politics again. The 2020 U.S. presidential election was back in the spotlight Wednesday in Atlanta, Georgia, where Democratic presidential contenders gathered for their fifth debate of the primary season. As VOA national correspondent Jim Malone reports, the impeachment inquiry targeting President Donald Trump was a key focus of the debate.
There were 10 Democrats on stage in Atlanta for the debate sponsored by MSNBC and The Washington Post. All the candidates support the impeachment inquiry now underway in the House, including former Vice President Joe Biden.
Who is most likely to be able to win the nomination in the first place, to win the presidency in the first place? And secondly, who is most likely to increase the number of people who are Democrats in the House and in the Senate?
Biden is one of the front-runners in the crowded Democratic field, as is Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren.
We have to establish the principle, no one is above the law. We have a constitutional responsibility, and we need to meet it.
Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar supports the impeachment inquiry, but she will also be a juror if there's a trial in the Senate.
What this impeachment proceeding about is really our democracy at stake.
Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders warned Democrats about focusing too much on Trump.
he is likely the most corrupt president in the modern history of America. But we cannot simply be consumed by Donald Trump. Because if we are, you know what? We're going to lose the election.
Also weighing in was South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg. Buttigieg has soared into the lead in recent polls in the early voting states of Iowa and New Hampshire.
We are absolutely going to confront this president for his wrongdoing, but we are also each running to be the president who will lead this country after the Trump presidency comes to an end, one way or the other.
California Senator Kamala Harris said she sees a broader theme at work in the Trump impeachment hearings.
There are clearly two different set of rules for two different groups of people in America. The powerful people who with their arrogance think they can get away with this, and then everybody else.
Democrats also clashed over competing health care reform proposals, which has become a clear divide between liberals like Warren and Sanders and moderates like Biden, Buttigieg, and Klobuchar. Democrats hold their next debate in December in Los Angeles. Jim Malone, VOA News, Washington.
To East Africa now, where Ugandan musician and legislator Robert Kyagulanyi, also known as Bobi Wine, has been named as one of Time magazine's 100 Young Rising Stars. In part 2 of a conversation with VOA's Jackson Bungani, Wine, who says he intends to run in Uganda's 2021 presidential election, talks about the role of East Africa's youth in advocating for democratic reforms and the important role the diaspora plays in contributing to that struggle.
Dictators, especially in Africa, and indeed the whole world, seem to be reading from the same playbook, which playbook I believe must be destroyed so that nobody, especially in the new generation, reads from that. You know, while many countries are getting better at the observation of human rights and the rule of law, others are actually descending to worse levels. So it is a responsibility of all of us as Africans, as East Africans, as human beings, to observe what is right and to make sure that we look out to our brothers and sisters, even across borders, to make sure that injustice is nipped in the bud whenever it shows it face a dictatorship. Whenever it shows any signs, must be destroyed when it's still a seed, not waiting for it to grow up in an invincible tree.
Yeah. So you've been in North America on your North American tour. You're in Boston, you're in Washington, D.C. right now, you're in Maryland, you're in Toronto. What are Ugandans in the diaspora telling you, and why is it important for you to engage with the diaspora? Is that a constituency that you really, a politician in Uganda should care about?
Yeah, very important for us to engage the diaspora. First and foremost, we must acknowledge the fact that the diaspora has taken our best owing to the brain drain that has been ongoing not only in Uganda but very many African countries. But in the case of Uganda, so many of our talents and our resourceful people have been drained from Africa because Uganda in particular does not offer them what they deserve.
The environment.
The environment does not favor their dreams. They are first world brains in a third world country, and it's only understandable for them to want to work or to live their lives in communities, in societies, under conditions that dignifies them. So we come to these people because we know these are, one, resourceful Ugandans, but most importantly, that are living in well-governed countries. We believe that what they've learned here can be such a resource to our home. But most importantly, even within our struggle, we know that the regime, the dictatorship back home, only fears the international voice, only fears sanctions, and we have capitalized so much on our diaspora community to push for sanctions, to push for these development partners to hold the administration back home accountable in terms of human rights and the rule of law. I must mention that our diaspora team has done tremendous work that has led to the sanctions against the former police chief Kali Kaihura and a lot of other other officials in Uganda that were involved in human rights abuses. That was so motivational to the people of Uganda, and we wanted to continue. We wouldn't have been able to achieve that minus our diaspora team.
Ugandan legislator Robert Kyagulanyi, also known as Bobby Wine, speaking with VOA's Jackson Bungani. Sudan wants to develop its stock market, which has avoided a crash during months of unrest, but it has a long way to become attractive to foreigners. Serena Chondre reports.
That's the bell to mark the start of trading at Sudan's fledgling stock exchange. It's small, about 40 smartly dressed men and women in a basement near the capital's central bus station. And for about an hour a day, they're all trying to help map out the future of the country's markets. Although the market capitalization is tiny, only around $177 million, traders say they have ambitious plans to expand the stock market once the government has stabilized the economy. Dima Wa, general manager at Sudan's biggest brokerage, Sanabel Securities, says the key to its future is diversification.
We need to have new products that support the state's strategic goals. We need to have strong stock movement. Our stock movement compared to countries abroad, we're not on the same level. We're still in a recession when it comes to stocks. So, as I told you, we need new products that support the country. We need new strategies to manage stocks. We need the current government to better support financial markets, Khartoum Exchange and companies. In order to develop, we need the government to look at that side.
Currently, only one brokerage can trade in real time online, but the exchange's assistant director, Abdul Rahman Majid, says he hopes to connect all brokers online soon. Tila said some foreigners, mainly from the Gulf, had bought into the market, but struggled to get a return on their investment since the 2011 secession of South Sudan. Still, traders were able to avoid a crash during the months of unrest which toppled leader Omar al-Bashir. And trade volumes have been rising steadily, increasing to around $245 million so far this year, from just under $200 million in 2018.
That was Serena Chondre of Reuters reporting. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, have a good evening.